Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission, well, it's pretty focused. We're digging into this whole idea of strong ground
Mm.
and how real transformation, the deep kind, personally or professionally, it really hinges on building this solid, unmoving foundation.
Right. And we've pulled together some interesting sources here. They mix things like physical therapy insights with high-level leadership challenges, even a bit of physics, to sort of map out this journey.
Yeah, it's a fascinating mix. And we kick off with something, well, painfully relatable for some, I imagine.
Definitely. It's this story of someone pushing hard for peak performance, really going for it, but then, bam, they hit a wall, a pretty bad injury that just left them feeling totally unstable.
And they thought, okay, physical therapy, let's get back to lifting heavy, smash the ball. That was the goal.
But the first session, the intake, it was a brutal reality check.
Brutal is the word. This person, super competitive, always active, scores a 10 out of 22 on a basic stability test.
Yeah. Dismal. It basically showed the core was just weak, dangerously so. Made all those high-intensity activities really risky, kind of ineffective, too.
And the trainer, Tony, he didn't sugarcoat it.
No, he was direct. Said something like, all the heavy lifting, the competing, that has to stop. For now, we're going to get you stable first. It's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? You just can't skip the foundation.
You really can't. You can't build this huge, impressive thing on shaky ground and, well, expect it to hold up under pressure. It's a tough lesson.
It is. And what makes this source really hit home is the emotional weight attached to that physical weakness.
Right. The story mentions family history, how the mother's and grandmother's cognitive health worsened quickly alongside their physical frailty, partly because they resisted doing the disciplined physical therapy.
That really underscores the stakes, and it leads us to defining what real commitment looks like in this context. It's not just, ticking a box.
No, for actual gains, the commitment needs to be, and I like this phrasing, deep, broad, and disciplined.
Exactly. It goes way beyond just doing the exercises. It's about those fundamental daily choices. Better sleep, proper nutrition, actually managing stress, the whole picture.
But why is that so hard? I mean, we kind of know the deep work is needed, right?
Yeah.
Yet we find ways to put it off or maybe do something else instead.
Oh, absolutely. The sources talk about the classic anti-solution. We avoid the core issues, the mindset shifts, the real habit changes.
And focus on easy, surface-level stuff instead.
Precisely. Like spending 20 hours watching YouTube reviews of productivity apps.
Guilty.
Obsessing over the perfect searchable tags, or maybe some fancy calligraphy feature on a new iPad app.
Oh, yeah. Finding the perfect digital tool.
Only to end up going back to a simple paper journal a few weeks later because the tool wasn't the problem.
Right. It's like transformation delay tactics using office supplies. We look for the perfect system to avoid doing the actual, sometimes uncomfortable, work.
It's easier to research apps than it is to, metaphorically speaking, fire up your glutes and do that deep stabilization work.
Definitely. And there's a crucial parallel here, isn't there, between that individual physical stability and organizational stability.
Yes, exactly. Both individuals and organizations, they need that core foundation. Things like strength, endurance, agility, mobility, balance.
All those elements.
That strong base is what allows you or the organization to navigate uncertainty, to actually take purposeful action when things get tough, when the market's volatile or competition heats up.
So that stable foundation, that kind of anchor, it lets you then move on to the next really critical skill set, which is about embracing tension.
Right. Specifically embracing paradoxical thinking.
Paradox. Okay, so how are we defining that here?
Well, what's interesting is how it's framed. It's like paradox is this gift that that reveals how much we dislike uncertainty.
Exposes our intolerance.
Yeah. It pushes us to sit with ambiguity, to hold competing ideas. The goal isn't instant resolution. It's more like ground down and hold the tension of two opposing ideas until a new, deeper wisdom emerges.
Okay, hold the tension. Let's make that concrete. What's an example on the individual level?
The classic one the sources bring up is freedom, any commitment.
Okay, so the instinct is if I want freedom, I shouldn't schedule things, I shouldn't commit, I shouldn't be tied down by structure.
Exactly. Protect freedom by resisting structure.
Yeah.
But what usually happens?
Chaos, missed deadlines, feeling overwhelmed, and ironically, having zero actual freedom.
Precisely. Whereas the disciplined act of, say, actually using your calendar, blocking out time for deep work, setting clear boundaries, that commitment.
That actually creates the structure needed For real freedom and control.
Yes. They aren't opposites fighting each other. They enable each other. It's an and, not an or.
Which perfectly mirrors Jim Collins' big idea, the genius of the A&D versus the tyranny of the OR.
Absolutely. Collins found that truly great visionary companies, they don't feel forced to choose between two extremes. They figure out how to embrace both simultaneously.
So it's not purpose or profit.
It's purpose and profit. It's not rigid discipline or free-flowing creativity.
It's discipline and creativity, philosophical thinking, A&E superb daily execution. Both.
Right. Holding that tension is where the leverage for greatness comes from.
Okay, so applying that to organizations facing tough times, we get the Stockdale paradox, which sounds intense.
It is. It's vital, though. It demands two things at once. First, you have to maintain this gritty faith that you will prevail in the end. Real belief.
Okay, unwavering faith, got it. And the second part?
A&D. You must have the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. No sugarcoating.
Wow. So unwavering faith, A&D, brutal honesty about the current mess. That's a tough balance.
It really is. And it's not about having, the optimistic team over here and the pessimistic reality check team over there. No, the point is everyone has to hold both. The vision and the current, sometimes really ugly facts. If you ignore the facts, the faith becomes delusion.
And if you ignore the faith, I guess the brutal facts just become paralyzing. You lose hope.
Exactly. You need both sides of that coin.
This kind of duality reminds me of James March's definition of leadership, the whole plumbing and poetry thing.
Yes. Plumbing and poetry. I love that metaphor.
Explain that one. What's the plumbing?
Plumbing is all the essential, often unglamorous stuff. The technical competence, the efficiency, the reliable systems, the organizational structure that, keeps the lights on.
The nuts and bolts, the stuff that has to work.
Right. And poetry, that's the other side. That's the ability to cast a compelling, inspiring vision, to create a sense of purpose and agency, to build trust, the relational stuff.
So the visionary leader, the poet, also needs to know how the systems work, how the plumbing functions, where the light switch is, metaphorically.
Absolutely. Because without that trust, that connection, that poetry, even the most perfectly designed, efficient plumbing systems are kind of irrelevant. People won't engage, they won't follow.
Okay. So holding all these tensions, purpose and profit, faith and facts, plumbing and poetry, that takes a specific kind of mental muscle, doesn't it?
It really does. A core mental skill. The ability to just sit with discomfort and uncertainty without freaking out.
And there's a name for that skill, coined by the poet John Keats, of all people. Negative capability.
That's the one. Negative capability.
What did Keats actually mean by that? It sounds, well, negative.
It's not negative in a bad way. He defined it as the capacity to be in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason.
Without that irritable reaching. I like that. So resisting the urge to grab the first easy answer just to make the uncertainty stop.
Exactly. It's the discipline to wait for insight, to tolerate ambiguity, rather than forcing a premature conclusion just because the not knowing feels uncomfortable.
That feels incredibly relevant for avoiding cognitive biases. Like Daniel Kahneman warning us about thinking what you see is all there is.
Precisely. Negative capability is like the antidote. It lets leaders acknowledge complexity, resist explaining away things they don't understand yet, and just wait, be open.
So, if that's the mental skill for grounded decisions, resisting the quick fix, what about the physical analogy? How does that grounding actually generate force in the real world?
Well, the sources give a great example from sports. The Philadelphia Eagles, tush-push.
Or the brotherly shove, yeah. Okay, so initially, people just saw a pyre of big guys pushing.
Right, just mass and momentum. But then Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, broke it down using Newton's laws.
Physics enters the chat, okay.
And he highlighted the absolutely critical role of ground force.
Ground force, meaning?
The enormous force the offensive line and the pushers generate. It doesn't just come from them being big and moving fast. It comes mostly from how effectively they push against the earth, against that massive, essentially unmoving object beneath them.
Leveraging the ground itself.
Yes, that connection to the ground provides explosive, almost immovable force, which is why defenders jumping in the air to try and stop it, they're basically ineffective. They aren't grounded.
Okay, so the physics lesson for leadership is our real leverage doesn't come from just pushing harder or faster.
It comes from anchoring first, finding that stable, unmoving point, that strong ground, and pushing off from there.
Got it. And that ground force, that stability, provides the basis for what the sources call grounded confidence.
Right, which is different from just arrogance or bluster. It's confidence built on self-awareness, courage, and actual practice, disciplined practice.
And the ultimate example of this in action is maybe the quarterback's pocket presence.
Definitely. I mean, picture the situation. You're the quarterback. You've got maybe 2.53 seconds.
Before 1,200 pounds of defensive linemen crash down on you.
Yeah. Intense uncertainty, real physical threat, total pressure cooker.
So pocket presence is what? How do they define it?
Emmanuel Acho described it as being able to read the entire field without being able to see all of it, trusting yourself and the people around you, and being a decisive leader under pressure.
Reading the whole field without seeing it all. Trusting. Decisive under pressure. Wow.
And Coach Sarkisian added a key point. It starts with courage.
Courage. The ability to stand firm in that chaos, knowing the hit is coming, but not panicking, not dropping your eyes to the rush.
But staying grounded, physically and mentally, to execute the play. You have to be anchored.
Okay, so you survive the pocket, you make the play. Now you have to shift to the next play, or in our world, the next task or meeting. This requires managing transitions, right?
Absolutely. And this brings us to another great metaphor. Lock in and lock through, based on the Teddington locks on the River Thames.
Okay, Teddington locks. Lock in sounds familiar. That's deep focus, right? Full attention, flow state, deliberate practice.
Exactly. That's the focused work time, when you're inside the lock getting stuff done. Mental toughness.
But lock through, that's the part we usually neglect.
Often, yes. Lock through is the transition itself. It's the mindset and the actual skills needed for integrating what you just did and intentionally recovering before the next thing. It's the opposite of just slamming the mental door shut and jumping straight into something new.
Why is that transition so important?
Because of something called attentional residue.
Attentional residue. Sounds sticky.
It kind of is. It's the leftover thoughts, the mental baggage from the previous task that lingers in your brain and drains your focus and energy for the next one. It's the hidden cost of switching contexts all the time.
Okay, so how does the lock metaphor explain this?
Well, the physics are really cool. For the actual lock gates on the river to open, the water levels on both sides have to be exactly the same.
Exactly.
Apparently, even a difference of half an inch over the course of 100 miles of river means those massive gates won't unlatch. The pressure has to equalize.
Wow. Okay, so applied to our brains. If we jump from one demanding task to another without letting those cognitive water levels equalize,
We carry that residue, that pressure differential. It makes the next lock-in much harder. Leads to mistakes, burnout, even memory issues over time. We haven't properly transitioned.
so the recover's a lock through. It needs to be deliberate. It's not just stopping, it's actively equalizing.
Yes. And often it needs to be something physical or completely different, like an immediate short walk outside. Or just a few minutes of actual nothingness, not trying to solve the next problem while you're still mentally depleted from the last one.
Clear out the residue so you can fully engage again. Your ability to do sustained, high-level work depends fundamentally on how well you manage those transitions.
It's disciplined recovery enabling disciplined performance.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this. If we pull all these threads together from our deep dive, the path seems to start with that core personal discipline, that stability. That's the prerequisite.
Right, that's the strong ground.
And building that ground gives you the capacity, the strength, to then embrace the necessary tensions of organizational paradox.
The plumbing, and the poetry, the faith and the facts.
Exactly. And then the tools we talked about, things like negative capability, pocket presence, and especially that lock-through for transitions.
Those allow leaders to actually execute with that grounded confidence, even when everything feels complex and uncertain.
It starts deep. It requires that broad, disciplined commitment, and sometimes a willingness to break things down to rebuild them stronger.
Which brings us to our final thought. It uses the metaphor of transformation as essentially death and rebirth, like the phoenix.
The fiery bird rising from the ashes. Okay.
We usually think about the phoenix myth, and we focus on the rebirth. We see the fire as this terrible thing you have to survive to get to the ashes so you can be reborn.
Right. The fire is the obstacle. Get through the fire.
But one interpretation, drawing on research into the myth, suggests we might be missing the point. The lesson isn't just surviving the fire.
What is it then?
The lesson is that the fire is the transformation.
Ah, not the obstacle, but the process itself.
Exactly. The purposeful breaking, the melting down, the reshaping, that is the growth. It's been described as transformation being like hitting present reality at high velocity and watching it break apart at impact.
That's intense. So the challenge for anyone trying to lead or transform based on this grounded approach
Is, Are you willing to actually light the fire? To initiate the necessary, sometimes painful breaking and reshaping?
Yeah.
Or will you just kind of wait, ungrounded, hoping the fire doesn't consume you when the inevitable pressure comes?
Something to definitely mull over as you work on building your own strong ground.